I offer a parable for your consideration. This parable of mine is a lot longer and more detailed than the inspired parables of our Lord. However, I have endeavored to illustrate a point of concern that many of us have over a bapto-doctrinal legalism. I call it the widower and his 3 daughters. It goes like this. Once there was a wealthy widower. There came a day when there arose an urgent situation involving his business. This matter required him to leave within a week and travel abroad for a year. This man was not only a widower, he was a father with 3 daughters who were young women. From the oldest to the youngest, they were 21, 19, and 17. The widower adored his daughters, and yet he did not spoil them. He directed them with clear expectations that were frequently conveyed. One might say that this man was a strict parent who demanded, above all else, respect, attention to detail, proper behavior, and unwavering obedience. His girls were to conduct their lives as responsible, disciplined, and morally upright individuals. A failure to meet these expectations could not be tolerated. On the eve of his departure, the widower held a meeting with his 3 daughters. He had compiled a list of all the duties, chores, and tasks required to properly maintain their broad estate. He divided these into 3 separate lists and gave each of them a copy. Each daughter had been delegated a certain portion of the overall responsibilities to faithfully attend during his extended absence. The widower sternly warned his daughters that they must not disregard their assigned responsibilities. Any disobedient daughter would be cast out of the family, removed and forbidden for all time from the estate, and would be stricken from his will. They would lose everything. Lastly, the widower instructed that his 3 daughters must be diligent and timely in properly maintaining the respective automobiles that he had given to each of them. The widower, up to this time, had personally overseen the regular maintenance of these vehicles. But now, during his 12-month absence, his daughters would need to assume that sacred responsibility. Regarding this matter of vehicle care, the widower instructed his daughters to review the maintenance logs found in the glove compartments of each of their cars. He emphatically declared and insisted that in compliance with the required maintenance schedule, they must arrange the changing of the oil and filter in order to ensure that the engine would remain properly lubricated so as to avoid excessive friction and failure. They would also need to ensure that the tires would remain properly inflated so as to minimize tread wear, maximize gas mileage, protect the suspension system from potential damage, and for the sake of safe and reliable travel. Furthermore, not only did the widower demand that his daughters sustain the mechanical integrity of their respective vehicles, they must put in some additional effort to prolong the structural integrity. To minimize the effects of rust and corrosion, the daughters were required to wash, rinse, and wax the exterior, as well as high-pressure spray the underside. The widower once again warned his daughters that failure to strictly follow his exact instructions for the explicit reasons that he gave would result in their banishment from the family. After the year away on business, the widower returned home. After he had conducted an extensive inspection of the property, he called his 3 daughters together so as to briefly meet with each of them in private, one right after the other. In these one-on-one meetings, he would review each daughter's task list and work log by which to further assess the extent of the faithful discharge of their respective duties. First, he met with the oldest daughter. The widower reviewed her documentation, asked her a few questions, and was pleased with her answers as well as her performance as indicated on the duty list. Then the widower reviewed the maintenance log for the vehicle he had given his oldest daughter. He said to her, "It appears that you have faithfully followed my instructions regarding the maintenance of your vehicle." His daughter replied, "Oh, yes, I did, Father. Per your instructions, I had the oil and filter changed in strict accordance with the schedule to ensure that the engine remained lubricated so as to avoid excessive friction and failure. I kept the tires properly inflated so as to minimize tread wear, maximize gas mileage, protect the suspension system from potential damage, and for the sake of safe and reliable travel. I also kept the exterior of the vehicle washed and clean, as well as the underside of the car, so as to minimize rust and corrosion in order to prolong its structural integrity." The widower smiled. "You have done well, my good and faithful daughter. I am most pleased. During my absence, you have been truly faithful to me in all things. Continue to enjoy the blessings of being my child and living here on our grand estate. Surely, upon my eventual death, you will justly receive your full inheritance. Nevertheless, I do sense that you are troubled. What is it?" The eldest daughter replied, "Father, my next youngest sister neglected her responsibilities, placing greater burden on both myself and my youngest sister, who, by the way, always behaved very well. Even more, my next youngest sister showed extreme disrespect to you by hosting parties in which she and her guests degraded themselves with excessive drinking, lewd behavior, and fornication. My youngest sister and I warned her with tears, but she laughed and even cursed your name. If you doubt me, you can review the security video taken during her poolside parties." The widower became filled with an indignation that he just could barely restrain. Surely he loved his daughters, but this level of defiance, disobedience, and disrespect could not be tolerated. He dismissed his eldest daughter and called in the middle daughter. She just sat there as her father silently reviewed, with the laptop computer on his desk, her log and list, as well as the video, which clearly confirmed what the eldest sister had reported. The widower glared at this defiant daughter, struggling with such a seething anger that he could not speak. The daughter just laughed and said, "Oh, come on, Daddy, lighten up. Life is short. Youth fades so fast. We need to live to the fullest and avail ourselves of every youthful pleasure while we can. You know, life isn't worth living if you don't have fun." Her father was not swayed. At once he called in his security and ordered these two large men to immediately escort his middle daughter outside of the gate. She would be forever banished. No longer would she be his child. She was no longer a member of the family. The young woman suddenly realized how serious her father was with the grim reality of the consequences of which she had been warned. She screamed, bawled, and begged for mercy, but her wailing, pleading, and tears were to no avail. She was seized, dragged out of the mansion, and tossed like garbage outside of the gate. The gate was closed shut and locked. There was nothing left for this middle daughter to do but to stagger down the road in the rain, incessantly sobbing in shock and despair. Once the widower had a moment to collect himself, he called in his youngest daughter. With a smile, he greeted her and asked her to sit down and make herself comfortable. The youngest daughter smiled back, confident that her father would be pleased with her consistently proper conduct and behavior, as well as the faithful discharge of her duties while he had been away. The widower received her documentation, as well as the vehicle maintenance log taken from the glove compartment of her car. Nodding with approval, the widower said, "My dear daughter, it certainly seems that you have done well in my absence. According to your eldest sister, you have conducted yourself honorably. According to my review, it appears that you have been diligent in faithfully discharging your duties and taking proper care of your vehicle." The youngest daughter beamed a smile back at her father and said, "I have been very busy, Daddy. I missed you, and I wanted you to be happy with me when you got back." The widower continued to nod and smile approvingly. "Indeed, you have been busy, my dear girl." Then, clearing his throat, he added, "There's just one more matter that we must review and confirm." "Oh," breathed the youngest daughter. "Well, what could that be, Father?" Glancing one more time at the vehicle maintenance log, the widower said, "It is about your vehicle maintenance." "Oh, I took very good care of the wonderful car you gave me, Daddy," the girl gently insisted with a smile. "I made sure the oil was changed, the tires stayed inflated, and I thoroughly washed and cleaned the car many times." "Well, that is good," replied the widower with an approving nod. "Tell me, though, why did you do these things?" The girl shrugged. "Because you told us to do these things, Father, and I was just being obedient and responsible as you demand, expect, and so richly deserve." "I understand that, dear, but I need to know why you changed the oil, maintained proper tire pressure, and kept the vehicle clean. Growing a little uneasy, this youngest of the three daughters took a deep and somewhat nervous breath and replied, "Well, I changed the oil and filter because oil gets dirty and the motor runs better with clean oil. I kept the tires properly inflated because the car drives better with fully inflated tires and gets better mileage. I kept the car clean because the car I drive also reflects upon you, and I wanted to be sure to honor you in all that I do." The widower was no longer smiling. After a long and uneasy moment of silence, he took a deep breath and then finally spoke. "Young lady, I not only gave you specific instructions in maintaining your vehicle, I also gave you the reasons why. I carefully explained the purpose for changing the oil and filter, maintaining proper tire pressure, and keeping the exterior and underside of the vehicle clean. When I asked your oldest sister about the maintenance of her vehicle, she not only told me what she did, but why she did it. She not only did what she was supposed to, but she did so for the reasons that I gave her. I now give you one more chance. Why did you change the oil and filter? Why did you maintain proper tire pressure? Why did you keep the exterior and underside of the car clean?" The youngest daughter shook her head in dismay and weakly whimpered, "Oh, Daddy, I just don't know. I can't say that I remember or even fully understand all of the reasons that we were supposed to maintain the vehicles. I just understood what you wanted us to do, and I did it. I did it because you commanded us to. I obeyed you out of love and respect. Isn't that enough?" "No, it is not enough," snarled her father. "It has never been enough. Obedience is only valid when it is carried out precisely for the right and proper reasons. Yes, you obeyed, and the reasons you gave were not false, but they were insufficient. You even used an incorrect term in describing your duties. It is an engine that propels a car. It is not a motor. You failed to refer to the automotive components by proper automotive terms and names." With tears streaming down her cheeks, the youngest daughter meekly pleaded, "But Daddy, I love you. I was so careful and diligent to carry out your commands as best I could understand them. Because of that, the car runs and looks great. Just go take a look at it. It is thoroughly clean both inside and out. You see, I not only made sure that the outside and the underside remain clean, why, I even vacuumed and wiped down the interior. I never ate or drank in the car. I wanted you to be so pleased and so very proud of me." Indignation began to swell up within the widower. He trembled and roared in rage. "What? Young woman, I was very specific in my instructions about cleaning your car. You and your sisters were to keep the exterior of the cars clean. I never specified a cleaning of the interior, only the exterior, outside and underneath. You have not only failed in obeying me for the right reasons, you have not only failed by incorrectly referring to an engine as a motor, you also went beyond what was specified and did what I had not sanctioned. In your willful presumptiveness, you essentially accomplished unauthorized maintenance on your vehicle. Therefore, due to your failure to obey me for the right reasons, applying improper terms, and then going beyond what I had authorized, you will now join your wretched sister outside the gate. You are no longer a part of this family. Away with you, oh you faithless, reckless, defiant, and disobedient child. The widower clapped his hands. The security team took hold of the girl. In anguish and shocked, stunned disbelief, she screamed, "But Daddy, I love you. I am so sorry. I know that I did not understand and remember everything as I should have. I am so sorry. Please, I meant no disrespect. I sincerely love and honor you. I faithfully obeyed you. Please, show me mercy, please." The widower shook his head. "I cannot show you mercy. I know you were sincere in your love, your honor, your conduct, and your obedience to me. But my acceptance of you as my child is completely conditional upon your perfect compliance in both performance and cognition with my instructions. Granted, you did carry out my instructions, but your compliance was sadly incomplete. Your obedience was invalidated by insufficient understanding and reasons for doing what I had directed you to do. Regrettably, my very nature and character are such that I am unable to grant you any grace. I am unable to forgive you and let it go. I cannot let it go. I will not let it go. And now you have to go." The widower clapped his hands once more, and the youngest daughter was dragged like a despised and unwanted intruder out of the beautiful warm house that she had called her home. The whole way to the door and then down to the drive to the front gate, she screamed, sobbed, and wailed in anguish, heartbreak, and pain. In the midst of a cold and driving rain, she was violently shoved outside of the gate. She fell to her knees in a puddle on the pavement and watched, shivering with tear-swollen eyes, as the gate of iron was closed and locked to her forever.